I've been making things on the internet for 4 years now, and in that time, I have accumulated a ridiculous amount of maker tools, but it wasn't always like that. When I started, all I had was a cheap 3D printer in a closet and a dream. But the truth is, the tools that you dream of don't actually always end up being the tools that you use the most. And on the flip side of that, some of the cheapest, most unexciting tools that I bought ended up being the tools that I use the most in the day-to-day. And for that reason, I wanted to put together a tier list of all the tools that I've tried over the years to help you try and navigate which ones are worth looking into and which ones are just going to take up valuable space on your desk. Now, in all fairness, if 100 makers made this video, we would probably all have slightly different rankings based on what we like to make specifically. So if you make things too, please let us know down below what you make and let me know how my rankings stack up to your rankings. Finally, I think it's also important to note that I did not acquire all these tools overnight. As a content creator, reviewing and trying tools is part of my job, so I happen to acquire a lot. But some of the coolest projects I've seen on the internet are from people who have very limited sets of tools, because you know what they say, it's not about the size of the tool collection, it's what you do with it. But with all that said, let's get into making and ranking. Now, perhaps if you're Amish and have never seen a tier list video before, basically we'll be ranking things into different categories, S being the highest and best, and F being the worst. With my channel being called Misfit Printing, of course we have to talk about 3D printers first. In the wild, there's basically two types of 3D printers that you're going to encounter: FDM 3D printers and Resin 3D printers. We'll talk about both individually, but what I'm not going to do is rank every single printer because we will be here forever. With that said, people do always ask what printer they should buy, and I'm going to target this question into beginners specifically because if you're asking that, I'm assuming you haven't gotten into 3D printing. And the truth is, in 2026, they're actually all just about the same. Unless you have really specific project specifications, I'd say any printer above the $200 range, you're going to get really amazing results with, and you can definitely grow into it over time. As of today, I think my number one recommendation for beginners would probably be the Anycubic Cobra X, which funny enough, I don't even own, but I've heard amazing things about it. I tested the Cobra 4, and I think that it would be a great beginner printer for people to get into. But how does an FDM printer stack up in the tool ranking? Well, I think it's so versatile. The best thing about 3D printers is no matter what you are interested in, there will be something that you can make with it. There are endless free files online, and there's so many times where I've had broken pieces or pieces of projects that I was repairing or just customizations that I wanted to do on a project that would be nowhere near as possible if I didn't have my 3D printer. Additionally, nowadays, most 3D printers only take about 20 minutes to get set up. They're super easy to use, and I would say almost anybody can jump right into it and feel pretty confident using this machine. So for that reason, we are putting FDM 3D printers in S tier. But what about Resin 3D printers? Well, the main difference between an FDM and a Resin 3D printer is the material that it uses. Whereas an FDM 3D printer takes solid material and melts it down to build your 3D print, a Resin 3D printer takes liquid resin and slowly cures each layer to build your print. I was so scared of resin for so many years, and I just got into it this year, and I have absolutely fell in love with it. Honestly, I find myself Resin 3D printing far more than FDM 3D printing these days. You get way more detail, you have to do way less post-processing, and overall, I am in love with the results that you get. But there is a catch to resin. At the end of the day, you're dealing with a toxic substance in your house, and you need room for this machine. I didn't get a Resin 3D printer for so many years because I just did not have somewhere that I could vent it out of or feel safe running it. So although in my heart I want to put a Resin 3D printer as S tier, we're gonna have to drop it down to B tier. That brings us into our next device and the sponsor of today's video, the Liene PixCut S1, the world's first smart printing and cutting all-in-one sticker maker for hobbyists. For some additional context, I've actually owned the PixCut for over a year now, so when they reached out about sponsoring a video, I was both surprised and excited because not only is this machine small, which as somebody with limited space, I love, but it's also way easier to use than any other method that I have tried for making stickers, which if you've never tried making stickers in your home before, it sounds like it should be simple, but for some reason it almost never is until now. PixCut combines the printing and cutting into one machine, so you can create something right on the app on your phone and send it automatically to the printer. It handles the whole process without having to print the images for the sticker out on a dedicated computer printer, which for whatever reason, I find computer printers to be the most complicated tool that I have ever used. And once your sheet of stickers comes off of your standard printer, then typically you would have to take it to another machine and hope that you aligned everything perfectly and cut it out and pray to the gods of making that nothing else goes wrong. And if you watch any of my content, you know like 3% of the time nothing goes wrong, and the rest of the time everything goes wrong. Conversely, with the PixCut, the app itself is super straightforward. There are a ton of pre-made sticker templates and design elements already built for quick projects. I like to use the pre-made sticker sheets if I'm sending people packages because I feel like it's so fun to get a package decorated with cute little stickers on the outside. I also love to make tiny tiny little custom labels for things around my house with their pre-made design elements, but you're also able to bring in your own completely custom designs. I like to use this to add elements to 3D prints to make them look more realistic. For example, I printed these tiny little books and then made little dust covers that I stuck onto the outsides. But probably my favorite and most common use case for this is I like to print little tiny QR codes, so if I'm leaving prints out in public for people to find, I can just stick the QR code on the bottom of the print and then they can get more information about where it came from. To walk through the flow, let's say I want to turn this photo into a sticker, I can bring the image into the app, have it automatically identify the contour I want to cut around, lay everything out, and send it straight to the machine. It prints in 300 DPI, which gives you a lot of detail and color payoff, and it automatically laminates the print and cuts around the design with the accuracy of plus or minus half of a millimeter. They told me that this machine went through 700 days of development and R&D, and after having it for over a year now, I can tell that a lot of dedication went into making this app and hardware super user-friendly. Although it's not a machine I would tell every single maker that they have to run out and buy tomorrow is their first machine, I do think if you regularly make things like labels, stickers, you like to customize 3D prints, or are like me and would rather be hung by your toenails than operate a standard computer printer, I think that it is an amazing option. So overall, great if you make specific things, and for that reason, we are putting it high in B tier. If you do want to pick one of these up, Liene is also offering 15% off the PixCut S1, so if this sounds like a useful tool for the kind of projects that you make, I'll have the link in the description down below along with the discount code. Now from here, we do have to give an honorable mention to a machine that's very similar to the PixCut, and I'm probably going to ruffle some feathers with my opinion on this one, but that is none other than the Cricut. Now I had seen and wanted a Cricut for years. In my mind, I thought it was going to be one of those machines that I used all the time. It felt like I saw people doing so many different projects with it, and it would be so fun to use and so intuitive because it's a large platform that so many people use. Maybe it's just me, maybe it's just the way that my mind works, maybe it's my disdain for standard computer printers, but again, I just find the process of printing things out on a separate device and then bringing it to the Cricut, trying to line it up, make sure that everything's right, so tedious. I never get it right, things are backwards, I get frustrated. While I understand making stickers isn't the only thing that the Cricut does, essentially it's like a tiny little CNC. For the type of stuff that I like to make at least, I just don't find myself reaching for it that often. To think of it, the people who I do see using these devices a lot and seem to really enjoy these devices tend to be more so the people who are on like the Etsy side of things. Maybe they're making shirts or cups or cards or other types of things that they're kind of selling in mass. It's just not the type of stuff that I find myself making. So if you enjoy making those types of things, maybe you would enjoy the Cricut, but it is just not for me. It collects dust in a closet, and every time that I think about getting it out, I just dread the thought of using it. If you'd be interested in some content on us trying to get acclimated to the Cricut, then let me know. But unfortunately and sadly, I'm putting the Cricut in F tier because I have regrets. Moving on to our next tool, we're going to talk about 3D printing pens. I think a lot of people who don't currently own 3D printers think of 3D printing pens as the gateway into getting into 3D printing, and I would really say separate them out in your mind as two completely different devices. Whereas a standard 3D printer, you load files in and it's going to make something completely for you. A 3D printer, if you want to make a physical 3D object, you honestly have to be a pretty good sculptor yourself because you're building the entire thing. A lot of them on the market are pretty cheap, but they're usually not super well made. As somebody who owns 3D printers, I would never use this for actually sculpting. And I think if you're trying to look to get the experience of having a 3D printer and replace it with a 3D pen, you're just going to end up a little disappointed. However, what I will say 3D printing pens are amazing for is if you already have 3D prints and you have parts that you want to attach together, you can actually use the 3D printing pen to melt down the filament and weld those pieces together with it. Now, with that said, overall, I do think that there's better methods for doing this with different tools that we'll talk about a little bit later in the video. So for that reason, I'm going to put 3D printing pens down in B tier. I barely use it, but every now and then it does come in handy, and it can be a useful tool to have in your collection from time to time. But moving on to one of the tools that I think is actually a better option, a soldering iron. Whenever I think of printing out something big like a helmet or giant statues or anything where you're printing multiple pieces apart and you're going to have to weld them together, this is where a soldering iron can really come in handy. What you can do is take that soldering iron and the end of the spool of 3D printing filament and use it to plastic weld those two pieces together. And unlike a 3D printing pen where it just barely gets hot enough to melt the filament, because the soldering iron gets so hot, you're going to create a really, really strong bond between those two pieces. But then again, thinking outside the scope of just 3D printing, if you're into making electronics, or I've even seen people do really cool things where they're melting down metals to make different kinds of glass art, or so many other applications. So for that reason, I'm going to put soldering irons in B tier. Great if you make specific things. Moving on to laser engravers. I will say my experience with laser engravers has specifically been on the Snapmaker 3-in-1 machines, which are a 3D printer, a laser engraver, and a CNC all in one. Of course, companies like X Tools have always had their dedicated machines that have been really popular. However, I also feel like with Bamboo Labs kind of teasing in the direction of moving more into the laser engraver space, I think we'll see this become a bigger and bigger market over time. Don't get me wrong, especially if you have a powerful laser engraver that can cut through materials. And realistically, the limitations I found around this machine were probably more closely tied to the limitations of how I was thinking creatively and not tied to the limitations of the machine itself. However, like the Cricut, I do find that most people I see using these frequently tend to be more so for things like laser engraving cutting boards, laser engraving canvases, and then going on to sell those products as opposed to incorporating them into more multimedia projects. I do think it's very possible if I made this video in a couple years, my opinion on laser engravers might change drastically, but at least right now, I will say that this is a machine that I barely find myself using, and for that reason, we're gonna put it in D tier. Real quick from here, we're gonna jump to CNCs. And again, my experience outside of the Cricut for using CNCs is specifically on the Snapmaker 3-in-1 tools. I know the woodworkers out there love their massive CNCs, and they are such impressive tools. However, I think the reality is that most of us makers out there, unless we're professional woodworkers who are making a living out of it, probably can't afford those massive devices. So thinking about your standard consumer tabletop CNC machine, while again, they do offer versatility like laser engravers for cutting into things, and unlike 3D printing that is additive manufacturing, essentially doing subtractive manufacturing, personally, I still think they have a lot of drawbacks. For one, if you've never heard a CNC running, they're incredibly loud. Actually, I take that back, they are terrifying. I constantly live in fear when I run my CNC that I don't have the blade attached correctly and that it's going to spin out and impale me, but maybe that's just me because I also think that about the Ninja Creamy blade. Anyway, it's also worth noting that CNCs are incredibly loud and incredibly messy. The problem that I find with a machine like the Snapmaker 3-in-1 in particular is if you're running a big CNC project on it and then want to flip over to something like 3D printing, you now have dust and material everywhere from your CNC project, which is potentially going to cause problems for your 3D printer. Now, of course, there are scenarios where a dedicated CNC is just an absolute lifesaver, but I think so many of those scenarios could either be taken over by a tool like a 3D printer, a Dremel with a jig on it, or so many other things that I would choose before a CNC. So for me, unfortunately, I have regrets and CNCs are going in F tier. But moving on to a much simpler tool, we have the rusty, trusty glue gun. Now, I've grown up using glue guns my entire life, and I will say there is nothing in my maker room that I have injured myself more using than a glue gun. Really do have to be careful because it is so easy to burn yourself, but when you need to attach things together super quickly, you don't want to use something like a CA glue, or maybe for some reason you don't want that much attachment or you want a different type of attachment, a glue gun is just amazing. They're very affordable. As long as you're not sticking your hand in the line of fire, I think they're great. And for that reason, we're putting them in A tier, worth owning for most serious makers. I went back and forth if this next one fell into the category of being a tool, which is PPE or personal protective equipment. I think that's what it stands for. Anyway, things like your gloves, your respirators, your goggles, please wear them when you're making things. It's so important. And as somebody who has sent themselves to immediate care making things, trust me when I tell you buying PPE is worth it every time because medical bills are expensive. So for that reason, I would buy them again immediately every single time when I run out. We're putting it in S tier. Next up is a tool that I hear very few people talking about, and for a period of time, it was one of my holy grail tools in my maker room, and that is none other than my Polymaker Polysher. This tool will be for people who 3D print specifically, and essentially what it is a chamber that fills up with isopropyl alcohol vapor and allows you to vapor smooth their poly smooth material, which is PVB filament. The cool thing about printing in PVB, unlike materials like ABS, is that because it doesn't give off toxic fumes and it prints just like PLA, you don't need an enclosure for it. And from there, when you vapor smooth your prints with isopropyl alcohol, it gets rid of all the layer lines. Now, you certainly don't need the polisher to use PVB. You can just spray it with a spray bottle, but I find that process to be very tedious and you have to do so many rounds, whereas the polisher is completely automated. Just put the print inside of it, hit run, and walk away, and when you come back, you have a resin-like 3D print finish. Okay, well, not exactly like resin because it does destroy a lot of your details. But if you're printing something where the details doesn't matter, amazing. There was a period of time where I switched exclusively to using PVB filament because I loved it so much and I loved this machine so much. However, I then evolved and got myself a resin 3D printer, and nowadays I find myself barely ever using this thing. So although if you had asked me this question about a year ago, it would have been so much higher on this list, at least today, I barely use it, and for that reason, it is going in D tier. Next up, we have an honorable mention for Snips, utility knives, and pliers. If you don't have a plethora of these, what are you doing with your life? They're the most versatile tools in your maker room. I have no less than 10 pairs scattered all throughout my house, and I can tell you right now that even still, it is not enough. The limit truly does not exist for how many of these you can have in your house, and even if you are not working on maker projects, I promise you, they come in handy so often. So for that reason, I would buy it again immediately, and it is going as the first thing in S tier. Now, after you snip all the supports off of your prints, typically what I find myself wanting to do next is sand them down. Standard sandpaper has never steered me wrong, but one tool that I got more recently was a palm sander. There's a few different types that you can get. Mine personally is an Orbital sander, and it just has little sandpaper pads that you can attach it onto. course, this is going to be too large if you're working on tiny prints. However, if you make large things like cosplay props or statues or anything of that nature, a palm sander is going to save you so much time compared to just manually sanding it down with your hands. I was a little torn between B and C tier, but overall I think it's more of a nice to have, so we're going to put it in C. Now, I wasn't sure if I wanted to formally include this tool because I only got it 2 days ago, but that is none other than the Nano sander. I'm sure that these have existed for decades, however, more recently I've seen them marketed pretty heavily. And basically, it's a tiny little oscillating tool, almost like an electric toothbrush, that has a tiny piece of sandpaper on it, and you can use it for sanding down those super small prints that wouldn't work with something like a palm sander. Again, having gotten more into resin recently, there's a new project that I got it for specifically, and I will say I really think that I like this thing, but I haven't hit it long enough to make a serious recommendation for it. So for that reason, we're going to put it under nice to have, but let me know if you want a dedicated video on the Nano sander. Speaking of tools that have been around for decades, next up we have none other than the Dremel. If you're not familiar, a Dremel is essentially a rotary tool that has an endless amount of attachments that you can put on it, and it is incredibly versatile. It has an endless array of sanding bits. Sometimes I will say I find it to be a bit aggressive on 3D prints and it can actually melt them, so you do have to be careful. If you like to sand down things like woods or sculptures, or you like to cut holes in things, you can actually attach it to a press and systematically push it down to cut holes into things, which is pretty cool. There's been a handful of scenarios where I've used it to cut things apart from each other. Overall, they are very versatile, they are very strong, and it's one of those tools that I feel like if you buy it, you're going to have it for life. With that said, kind of combining with the Dremel, if you are on a bit of a budget and you're looking for a cheaper option, an e-file that they use for nails, like acrylic nails, also can be really amazing and has a lot of similar attachments, just not as powerful, probably won't last you for life, and doesn't have as much versatility, but still a really great tool. I kind of want to put it in A tier. I just don't feel like for me, I use it enough to justify it going into A tier, but overall, I think I'm going to put it in B and say that it's great if you make specific things. Next up on our list is a heat gun. If you're not familiar with a heat gun, well, it's exactly what it sounds like, and it just blows out incredibly hot air. Maybe you're thinking to yourself, that sounds dumb, but I'm going to tell you what, it's one of those tools that every now and then I need it, and I'm like, thank God I have this thing. For most of the projects that I use, I actually prefer the smaller, less powerful ones. I find that the really big, super powerful ones can actually burn and melt and in some cases light on fire the projects that you're making, so be careful with that. But it can actually be a really helpful tool for helping with support removal. If you like to melt down your 3D printing poop, it can be fun for that. Although it's probably not going to be the tool that you reach for every single day of your life, I will say it is a nice to have, and for that reason, it's going in C tier. Next up, we have an airbrush. Now, personally for me, I very rarely find myself printing in multi-material or multicolor prints. I love painting my prints, and I was so excited to get an airbrush. And what I will say about owning an airbrush is truly there is nothing that will get you the finish on a print like an airbrush will. It is just an amazing tool. The results that you get with it are beautiful. That being said, I hate cleaning my airbrush. And I want to say that this is just a me problem, but every time I post about my airbrush, I get so many people who say the same exact thing. If you're the type of maker who kind of likes to start a project and then walk away from it and come back to it a couple days later and you're not super good about cleaning things, I'm just going to tell you, you're probably not going to like an airbrush. You have to be really dedicated about cleaning out the paint inside of it. If you let it dry inside, it's a total disaster. I've burned through so many airbrushes in my day because I haven't cleaned them out properly, and it really can just be a pain. So you're balancing the pain with the pleasure of the result that you're going to get with it. However, a tip that I will give you to get about 85% of the result of an airbrush without actually having an airbrush is using a little makeup sponge like a beauty blender. All you're going to do is get the sponge super wet, wring it out, dip it into your paint, dab it on a piece of paper towel so that there's just a little bit of paint left, and then you can dab it onto your print and you'll get a beautiful airbrush-like finish. Not quite as good, but again, for a fraction of the price and not having to do any of the maintenance that you would have to do with an actual airbrush. But thinking about the ranking for the airbrush specifically, I would say it is great if you make specific things. Certain people love it. They are amazing tools, and for that reason, it's going to go in B tier. Next up on our list, we have calipers, which is one of my favorite words to say. Calipers are a little measuring tool that get down to the millimeter and can really easily let you get dimensions on your print. They're great for people who like to 3D model things, or maybe you like to customize your prints to a very specific size. For instance, figuring out how big of a tiny little olive you need to put inside of a lava lamp. I've owned many sets of calipers over the years, and I will say I think that upgrading to the metal ones that are a little more expensive is worth it. They just feel much more substantial, and again, it feels like one of those tools that you will have for life. I'm a big fan of buy once, cry once, and owning something for life. I just love the idea of having something forever. But regardless, either way, I think that they're amazing, and I'm going to say that they're worth owning for most serious makers, and for that reason, they are going in A tier. Next up, for those people who love to customize out there, we have none other than a 3D scanner. I've owned a couple different 3D scanners at this point, and overall, I will say that they're pretty intuitive to use. Each one of them is going to have their own software, and something I was nervous about is not being a great 3D modeler myself if I was going to be able to get the full benefit out of them, but a lot of the tools out there do have a lot of great post-processing options that allow you to take a raw scan that's kind of messy and turning it into a file that's ready for printing. The thing you have to be careful about if you're looking into buying 3D scanners is most of them have very specific ranges of size that that they can work within. There are some out there that are more versatile, but typically you'll see either ones that are for super tiny, super detailed things, scanners that are more for something like the size of a Bunchy to the size of a Furby, and then large scale printers that are more so specific for things like scanning pieces on a car. If you don't do your research and buy the wrong type of scanner for the project that you're trying to do, that probably is where you'll get a little frustrated, because that is when it becomes a bit difficult to use, so just be careful with that. Now, as I'm talking about the 3D scanner and thinking about the cool things that you can recreate with it, I'm almost talking myself into putting it into a higher tier than I initially imagined, but at least for me, I barely use it, and I think for that reason we're gonna stick with it in D tier. Anyway, that concludes today's tier list, and boy, what a journey it was. If you've made it to the end of the video, I'm curious what you think of these rankings, if you agree with them, if you disagree with them, and what your experiences with these tools have been. Otherwise, don't forget to subscribe for more videos on maker tools, technology, lava lamps, and so much more. But as always, I appreciate you spending time with me today, and we'll see you in the next video.